welcome to another sizzling episode of the Hotdish Hustle. Today, we're diving into the world of innovative philanthropy and blockchain technology with a guest who's making waves in both the tech and charitable sectors. I'm thrilled to introduce Jim Renfrow, the visionary founder of CharityChain.io, a groundbreaking platform that's revolutionizing the way we think about charitable giving. But Jim's expertise extends far beyond the digital realm. Jim is a certified gemologist, and his deep knowledge of gemstones took him across the globe, from importing rough gems from Nigeria and Afghanistan to teaching faceting and gemology on the ground in Kabul, Afghanistan. His experience even includes an endeavor to create an international standards for rough emerald exports from Panjshir, Afghanistan to the USA. And today, Jim is not just a tech entrepreneur. Jim also is deeply rooted in the world of real estate, working with the Elm Group. This unique combination of experiences in gemology, real estate, and blockchain technology gives Jim a fascinating perspective on community building and value creation, both in the physical world and the digital realm. So, without further ado, let's welcome the multifaceted Jim Renfrow to the Hot Dish Hustle. Jim, how you doing, buddy?
Good. Thanks for having me, man. It's been a while. It's been a minute since we last chatted, so it's always good to see you.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. We met years ago, and it was interesting because the first time I heard the name of Jim Renfrow that I remember was when you were getting ready to leave a vendor role at this company, and um, you were going to Afghanistan, and everybody's like, "What the heck is that guy doing?" Um,
Yeah, they're like, "What's this crazy guy?" Yeah.
and
Yep.
everybody was kind of joking and laughing behind the scenes that you were a little bit crazy. And after that, then of course we became good friends and did some things together. And I realized just how crazy good you are. Um, so Jim, your career has been fascinating. Tell us a little bit about your experience as a gemologist and how you transitioned into the world of real estate and blockchain.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I went to Afghanistan July of 2011. I was at a Microsoft vendor before that. And so going to Afghanistan, I made very good money. When you live in a war zone, you're paid pretty well. And so I came back and basically went from making, really good money working for the government to getting laid off 3 times in the course of about a year from different software companies during that time. And my buddy who I had worked with at a former workplace was like, "Hey, you're really good at this thing that we need. Come work for us." And so went through the interview process, started in real estate in 2014, and really never looked back. And so got kind of a lucky break. I got introduced to it through a buddy. Never thought I'd work in real estate, and so it's been a fun ride. It's been really good to get back to having fun and this is the longest career I've ever had. Longest job. I mean, you've been my boss twice, I think, 2 or 3 times over my career when I was at Microsoft. So yeah, it that's how I got into real estate, and through that got into knowing people that needed to fight trafficking and other things that I'm passionate about. And so it's kind of a weird, twisted, odd road that got me here, but here I am. Been in it for 10.5 years now.
Yeah, but it's super interesting though when I talk to you, and I still kind of harken back to flawless facets, right? So one of the
Hmm.
things, just this might be a little bit boring for others, but one of the things that I did as part of that company that we started together to import and cut gems was a blog, and it was really cool because I took your diary and I turned that into a series of blog posts. That was your diary from
Yep.
when you were in Kabul, and it was
Yep.
fascinating. I loved it. So, that work in gemology took you to places like Afghanistan and Kabul in the middle of
Yeah.
a war zone.
Yep.
How did
Yep.
those experiences shape your perspective on business and philanthropy?
Yeah. I mean, I saw stuff there that I never thought I would, both good and bad. Um, and basically saw an entire country with PTSD and what that does to the economy and what that does to relationships. And yeah, I think for me, it kind of opened my eyes of like, I'm pretty lucky being where I am and I can do more, I can be more, and I can help more. And so, I think back to this kid that sold me books. I probably had like about like 6 Dari to English translation books from this kid. And he later on starred in a Hollywood movie, and now he's in college in the US. And just seeing his growth and seeing his life and like donating to his stuff, sponsoring people to come here. Just had a conversation yesterday with the guy that was my guard in Afghanistan. He's here now with his family. And yeah, I think when you go to a place like Afghanistan or Nicaragua or any of these other places in the world, you realize like a dollar here is pretty big deal and it can do a lot of good. And I'm not going to miss a dollar.
Yeah,
So what can I do to make a difference? And it kind of really just opened my eyes of like, there's a ton of suffering in the world that none of us really think about from day to day. And I'd really like to make a difference with that.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, personal. It hit you personally, and you mentioned Nicaragua, and that hit me personally. I've
Hmm.
been there several times, and until you live and see, to your point, exactly. I'm going to reiterate what a dollar can do, um,
Hmm.
in places like that. Um, yeah, it can multiply a lot.
Yeah. So I
So
mean, the
yeah,
in Afghanistan, not to go too far into it, but like I think at that time, the median income in the country was like $680 a year. And I knew many contractors that were getting paid that plus danger pay per day. And like we were living in literally like living in a palace next to squalor.
yeah,
It's crazy. You'd see a Mercedes and an AMRAP and Humvees next to a guy on a donkey. And it was just crazy that how much money was going in there and how little was actually going to good use sometimes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Some of those situations. Again, not to go too deep, but here we are. Um, there's a lot of money that gets sent, and a lot of money that
Yep.
gets spent, but it
Yep.
doesn't get to the people that need it the most.
Yep.
And that's why it's super important to make sure that any giving that you do is to a reputable organization that is getting money on the ground and seeing results. Not just throwing platitudes up on a website. So good
Yep.
reminder. Good reminder.
Yep.
Hey Jim, what is Charity Chain, and what inspired you to create
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So Charity Chain came out of a need for me. So I had a really good year in 2021 with crypto, but I was in, I'll be polite, we'll call them crap coins. It's not the proper term for the coins, but I was in a bunch of different projects that didn't have a way of being donated directly to nonprofits. So if you're in Ethereum or you're in Bitcoin or Solana, it's pretty easy to donate that to nonprofits right now with Coinbase and Giving Block, stuff like that. But if you're in sub tokens, I'm just gonna give you an example. I'm gonna pull it up because I was actually talking about this coin yesterday called Luigi Mangione. So this launched like the day he was arrested. It went up. I think when I looked at yesterday, it had gone up like 16,000%. So there's a lot of that goes on in crypto, and it's a lot of ridiculous if we're being honest. Where it's coins that just launch, they last a week and they die. There's some people in that situation though that they might make turn $100 into 50,000. And what I saw was a really big opportunity to basically help those people offset their taxable gains by being able to take those coins as donations, immediately liquidate them to cash or into the parent coin, and then hold that during these bull and bear cycles and use those for donations for good in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was basically the idea with Charity Chain. Was like, I've gone to Unseen to Than over there and said, hey, I want to donate 20 grand for fighting human trafficking. Um, how do I do it so I have the least amount of taxable consequences?
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem was I had to sell it into Ethereum, transfer it to a bank account, and write a check. That's the only thing that they could do at the time. And so for me, I was like, that sucks. I don't really want to do that because then I have
You
pretty much
immediately have
no.
those capital gains that you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And if I would have had something like Charity Chain, I could have immediately donated it to the nonprofit, had that go to what I wanted it to go to, and taken a $20,000 reduction in my capital gains.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where Charity Chain was born from. Was like, there's a lot of people that have this problem. The problem is probably going to grow. How do we do good with coins that they might last a week, they might last a year, but let's create common good with something that's really weird, like a Luigi Mangione coin.
Before we get too far here on the technical stuff, if and I don't necessarily
Yeah,
want to go down that route, but
yeah. No, we
let's
don't we
for
don't
our
need to go down that
listeners,
road.
yeah, for our listeners who might be new to blockchain, might not really
Mhm,
understand what Bitcoin is and some of these
mhm.
things. What is the blockchain? Um, can you give us a little bit of a tutorial here, Jim?
Yeah. So I mean, it started with Bitcoin about 13 years ago. I guess the way that I kind of explain blockchain technology is all of the rules are created before the thing goes into circulation. So if I use the COVID example, this will be not precise, but during COVID, basically more money was printed in 2 years than the previous 250 years combined. And what did we see from that? We saw insane inflation. We saw insane waste, among other things, and a lot of consequences with that. With Bitcoin and with a lot of these coins, you know the rules before everything starts. So with Bitcoin, there's halvings, meaning the supply that's being printed gets cut in half every 4 years approximately. Well, if we know the supply that's coming into the marketplace is going to be reduced by half, we probably know there's going to be price consequences for that if demand is going up, which it has. So we knew that. Um, Now we're getting into Web3, where now I own my data. There's no one coming in between me, like Google or Bing, and I'm able to monetize my data. So if you look at some of the newer Web3 blockchain projects, you may, be able to monetize your data if you're wanting to buy insurance or buy a house, things like that. Where now, instead of Google coming in and getting paid, you're able to get paid and monetize the value of those relationships and of those transactions. And so blockchain to me is just a lot more transparency, and it's a lot more security in transactions because everything's on the blockchain. Everything is documented. Every single transaction, let's just use money laundering, for example. If you have my wallet, you can literally tell every single transaction that's ever occurred on that in perpetuity. There is no way to hide things. So blockchain gives a lot more transparency than the dollar, we'll say.
Hmm.
And it's a lot faster. If I want to move $100 million in gold from Ghana to the United States, that's going to take a while. If I want to move $100 million of Bitcoin from Ghana to the United States, it's going to take about 3 minutes with confirmations.
Yeah. I mean, even
And the
even with a
cost is
bank,
the cost is the cost. Yeah, the cost is going to be extremely small too.
and even with a
Yeah.
bank, it's going to be days where that
Yep.
is scrutinized and reviewed and goes through regulations and all this stuff and whatever, right? So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
and just
Exactly.
to step back even a little bit further, um, people say Bitcoin and they really don't understand it. It's not a physical coin.
Right.
It is
It's
a
just code.
digit. We're going to say it's a digital coin, right? And what's different is when when you make a transaction with your bank, right? Let's say that you're going to write a check. You write a check and you write that information in your ledger and you remove it
Mhm.
off your balance. The bank
Yep.
does the same thing on their side where they get that check, they give out the money, and then they debit that from your account.
Yep.
Um, with the blockchain, it's basically the same thing, except those transactions are kept in a secure wallet and they are transferred into I don't want to scare people from a security perspective, but they're securely kept in multiple locations. So it's not like it's only in your checkbook in your bank, and if all that blows up, it's gone, right? Nobody knows.
Yep.
Blockchain is in a lot of different places and different pieces and parts, and can be reconstructed, based on those pieces and parts. And
Yep.
further, um, where someone could forge a check, um, unless you have all of the information necessary, you can't forge a Bitcoin transaction or a blockchain transaction.
Correct.
So it
It
is
would
it is
literally
a
take
lot more
all the
secure.
computing power. Yeah, and there has been hacks in the past. Typically, when someone is hacked, it's user error, meaning they stored their keys on an unsecured network or unsecured thing like Google Docs.
Yeah,
So, in order to actually hack into a wallet, it's usually 16 to 24 word combination. Um, now with quantum computers, that's why we had the flash crash the day that Willow was announced,
yep,
because everybody freaked out thinking that quantum computers and quantum chips now are going to be able to hack into wallets. Here's the thing, they're going to hack into your bank and everything else way faster than with Bitcoin. Or Bitcoin will just do a fork, and now you'll have a 100 word combination instead of 24 to
yeah,
get into your wallet. So that's the beautiful thing about technology with the blockchain too. You can always fork it. Ethereum has been forked multiple times for things that are faster, cheaper, and
yep,
more secure. And so
yeah.
that's the other beautiful part about blockchain too.
Um, so we kind of covered a couple of other things there that I wanted to chat about, but
Mhm.
um, so for listeners that might be interested in the technical aspects of charity chain.
Mhm.
And again, I don't want to go into the every bite and bit, but you know, give us something that the average person should know about that, or how that works.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I'll tell you where we're at right now and kind of where we see our vision. How's that sound?
Yeah,
Yeah, right now, I mean, we can accept pretty much any coin on any chain and give you a tax receipt today. And so, right now, I think there's about 16,000 coins. That number's growing every day across, you know, quite a few networks. There's about 15 that have 95% of most of the traffic.
so
But we
when you say that number, that's the number of different Bitcoin iterations out there, right?
16,000 coins. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
basically different coins living on Ethereum, Solana, Pulse Chain, Binance, things like that. And so
Okay.
those are the parent coins. And so, not to get too technical with people, but basically everyone knows about Bitcoin. Most people know about Ethereum. Most people that aren't in crypto do not know about all these other coins. That's where people get confused. And that's not my target audience.
Yeah.
The people that my target audience typically is people that are in it all the time that understand about these things and about basically, you know, I'm in Luigi coin or I'm in Nancy Pelosi coin or what was some of the others that are, the Trump, the MAGA coin, the, you know, uh, FJB coin a couple of
Maybe we
years
need the
ago.
Hotdish Hustle coin.
I mean, pretty easy to launch a coin now. Super easy to launch it. That's where tech has gone too. Where I mean, basically with $100 you can launch a coin, and it's crazy. And there's thousands that launch every day and thousands that die every day. So, like any business, you need to have a plan if you're going to launch a coin and
Yep.
actually market it and know what you're doing and actually have a benefit. So, yeah.
So for listeners who
So,
are,
so
yeah,
nuts and bolts. Going back to your question, right now we are accepting any coins. Kind of our long-term plan is to be like a little bit more like endowment. If you look at them, ENDAO, like a decentralized autonomous organization, Mint.org. That launched about the same time that we were starting to look at charity chain and get everything finalized. And they've raised $87 million in a bear market for nonprofits. And when they started, they were accepting Bitcoin and Ethereum based coins only. And so we saw that there's real value there, real demand. And that's only touching 2 networks. That's not touching the 15 that we're planning to be on. And so basically, long term, we want to be able to have our own Bitcoin mines. We're in active talks about that. Have our own Bitcoin, or excuse me, Ethereum, Solana, and other network nodes in order to basically use the network to create revenue to then donate to nonprofits that we've vetted. And the big thing that we're targeting is anti-trafficking. That's kind of where my heart has been. Um, you know, Same with you being in Nicaragua. There's a lot of kids that are trafficked there. There's a lot of kids that were trafficked in Afghanistan or worse. And
hmm
that's our number one focus is anti-trafficking.
yeah, yeah, that's so important. Um, so for listeners who are interested in supporting their causes through
Mm-hmm.
charity chain, what steps should they take or can they take maybe to get started with something? Whether it's, I don't know if you offer other charities to come in or vet, or how do they leverage their Bitcoin into these
Yep.
charities.
Yep. So if they were to come in and donate Bitcoin or donate another coin, they can literally just tell us like, hey, I'd like this once it's liquidated to go to this organization. Long term, we also have approval from the IRS to be a donor advised fund, which means we can hold those funds and do just that. That's what endowment is right now. They're a donor advised fund. So people come in with endowment. The big difference that we wanted to do is endowment liquidates it to USDC right away, meaning it's held in dollars. What we want to do is hold it in that parent coin through bear and bull cycles. So we know there was just a halving in May of this year, and we know more than likely the bull market will end by December of next year if it goes historically, in line with everything that else has happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Now that might change, but for the most part, we want to hold those coins within the parent coin because we think there's more opportunity there for bigger impact than
Yeah.
just holding it in USDC.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Looking ahead, what is your vision for Charity Chain's growth and impact in the coming years, Jim? Where do you see this? Where do you want to see this?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So I think the big thing, how many Bitcoin do you think it would take to solve trafficking worldwide by 2030?
I have no idea.
Give
At,
me a
at
guess.
today's rate,
No, not at the growth that's been forecasted by every major financial advisor in the country in price in Bitcoin.
probably not very many. I mean, obviously, this is going to be a big lesson. So lay it on me.
About 50,000 Bitcoin could solve not only, so it's about 50,000 for homelessness in America, and it's about 50,000 for worldwide anti-trafficking.
Yeah.
Both of those are $50 billion issues. That's about the price tag that, well, most news articles you see, ChatGPT, the UN has put on those problems too. It's about a $50 billion problem. Bitcoin gets to $1 million, so 50,000 times a million, that comes up with 50 billion. Yep, that math checks out. I just had to do it in my head real quick. Uh, that's the price that most economists, and most large financial firms, JP Morgan, Chase, all these others, are saying, hey, by 2030, we're probably looking at, $1 million a coin.
Okay.
And that's not including, El Salvador now has a treasury and doing, their government affairs in Bitcoin. Trump has talked about doing a strategic reserve of Bitcoin. So I just looked at it and said, like, 50 billion, I think, don't quote me on this. I'm pretty sure last time I looked is about what's giving nationally to nonprofits each year. And I was like, yeah, that's a ton, but 50,000 Bitcoin is not that many
Yeah.
out of,
And
a
not in the
supply
grand
of
scheme.
21. Yeah. And so I just saw crypto and Bitcoin and crypto in general as a way to do a lot of good. So the average fiat, the average dollar donation in the US right now is about $12. The average Bitcoin or crypto donation's 1,000. So people tend to give more because it's usually pretty normal people that
Hmm.
came into a lot of money that need to offset their taxes and do some good.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff, Jim.
So yeah, so that's why I looked at it. That's why I think long term it's a huge opportunity for nonprofits. But most nonprofits don't want to touch it. They don't want to understand it, and I get that. They have their mission and they're busy and they're just trying to survive, you know. And I understand that. And so we knew, like, there had to be a bridge between the crap coin community and nonprofits to do those transactions, hold them securely, and then transfer funds and make it easy. A nonprofit literally just wants their mailbox money,
Yeah.
and that's understandable.
Yeah. They're focused on
And
their
people,
mission and
yep,
their vision, and that's it. So, yeah,
yep, exactly, yep.
very cool. What else should folks know about Charity Chain? What if you could talk to somebody about
Yeah.
Charity Chain that you would really want to connect with?
Hmm.
Um, who would that be specifically? Give me a person's name.
Kind of like what our target audience is, or an actual person.
I want to know an actual person, Jim. I like to connect people, right? And it's interesting some of the weird things that have come out of some of my connections. So
Yeah.
who would be an ideal person for you to talk to about Charity Chain?
Uh, who was the guy that has talked about Dash and crypto many times in the FM community? Is it Eric Olson? I think he would be a good. I think it's Eric Olson. I think he would be a good. I think he moved to Puerto Rico. That guy did really well with Dash. I think he actually moved to Puerto Rico.
Love
That would
Puerto
be a
Rico.
yeah, great person for it. So,
So
basically
if
what
any of the
our
listeners out
ideal.
there, if
Yeah.
any listeners out
Yeah.
there know Eric Olson who did stuff with Dash,
Hmm.
we'd love to have a conversation with Jim to get that set
Yeah.
up. So that'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So that would be a good one. I mean, our ideal person is probably, I would say men or women. Typically, it's men that are in crypto space. That's changing, which is good. Probably from age of, I would say, 20 to 40, that have done well, got into crypto in the last, I would say, anybody that got in before 2017 is probably understands what we're trying to do for 2021 and be good as well. But really understands, like, hey, this is what we're trying to build. It takes money to build it because it is software. But ultimately, like, we're trying to solve some really big problems, and we think crypto is a really good way to do it. Um, but yeah, it's all funded on donations. Like Endowment raised 25 million from private investors because they ran it as a software licensing. So they
Yeah,
ran it as software that's getting licensed and getting fees from the nonprofits. And we're not doing that. We're raising all our money basically the old-fashioned way, bootstrapping it and trying to build it that way.
that's awesome. I love it. Hey, let's shift gears a little bit. Tell us about the Elm Group, Jim.
Yeah, so the Elm Group, there's about 12 of us here in Fargo. So we came from former places like Park and Hatch Realty and went on our own. So we started almost 2 years ago to the date. Yeah, end of 2022. I think the 16th of December was my last day at Hatch. So started about 2 years ago, and basically have been growing like crazy. We just had another agent today, and so we did about 330 homes this year, helped 330 family members, and our goal for next year is to help about 450. And so we're young and scrappy and just working on helping families. So all of us had that background. I've been in real estate for 10 and a half years. Tyler and Lucas have been in for 8 years, and then a lot of our people have been in for at least 4 years. So,
Nice.
yeah, we're located downtown right next to Island Park and basically helping people buy and sell homes in the area. We do work with some investors, but for the most part, it's a lot of single family homes and a lot of first time buyers. And that's really where my passion is, especially with, being overseas in Afghanistan and working elsewhere. I love helping new Americans and, people that are getting into their first home. Because I've seen where they have lived and, you know, a safe home, especially, my wife was in education for 20 years. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Safe home is leads to so much other stuff in life.
Yeah.
And so, that's the way I look at it is if rent is 1,300 and a house is 1,300, how can we get you into a house? And, it's just good for families.
I hear you. I hear
I don't
you.
know what it is about being on Gary's show, but it caused my phone to blow up.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We'll
Yeah.
make sure we use that in some of our intros. Um,
Yeah.
well, Jim, I appreciate it. I don't want to keep you too long, and I don't want to belabor all this much. But thank you so much for coming on. And if folks want to reach out to you, best way to do that is through charitychain.io.
Yep, charitychain.io. They can go there, or they can reach out on Facebook or Instagram and check in. So
Sounds great. Thanks for your time,
awesome.
man. I
Thanks, man.
appreciate you.
Definitely. Thank you. Thanks for having me.